Hi Mom, in this video I'm going to show you how to take a picture and make the background or whatever you want in the picture invisible so that you can use that picture to put into another background or put it on a website with whatever background you want. So right now we just have this flat picture. It's just like almost like a Kodak film, like one sheet of paper. But in order to play with this, we need to add a couple other sheets of paper, and those are layers. So you go up to Window and you open up your Layers panel. Now you can see background. That's all we have is this one sheet of paper. I want to make a copy of this background. So I'm going to drag it down to the copy area. My computer is apparently running slowly. Okay, so now I have two copies of this. They're identical. If we get rid of both of them, we can see underneath is the desktop. This is the invisible layer. This is what we're trying to cut away at this picture so that we can see this invisible layer. So the background can stay invisible. That's fine. We don't have to view it. But the background copy, we want to see that. So we click the little icon. I'm going to change it to working layer so you know that this is selected. Now, if you selected background and see it turned light gray and you did something to it, you painted on it or whatever, it would not show up on the working layer. So for example, I have background selected and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do some painting. And you think, why can't I see it? I was trying to paint. It's because you weren't painting on the working layer. If you make it invisible, you can see you were painting on the background layer. Okay? So the background layer is underneath. We can make it invisible. We don't need it. We need the working layer. Okay, so in the working layer, we're going to change the type of layer it is. We're going to change it by going to Layer, and we're going to create a mask. And we're going to go to Reveal All. Now, you can see in this picture, you can see right next to it, there's this white box. Everything that is white is the presence of this picture, and everything that is black is the absence of this picture. So what do I mean by that? Here we have two colors. If I were to take my paintbrush, and it's now selected to paint in black, and I did this, you can see that I have, in this little white box, I've created this black mark. I have painted the absence of the picture. Now, if I wanted to fix that, I could paint it white by changing the color. Now I've got a white paintbrush. Probably need a bigger paintbrush. And I'm going to make it even bigger. And I can go in and I can sort of repaint. Now I have the picture intact. And you can see this has turned white again. So as you're doing this, think of white as the presence of the layer and black as the absence of the layer. Okay, so there are a couple selection tools that we use when we are trying to select portions of a piece. There's the very basic square circle. So with the square, you can simply click and draw a square and then click delete. And you can see I've taken away. Now I've got some invisible stuff here, and up on the working layer, you can see this black that's invisible. You can do it in a circle also. This is a little bit more exacting. You can use the lasso tool, which is a free draw. So I could just sort of drag what I wanted to be selected and then connect it so you're making a whole shape. And then I click delete and it deletes that. Another more advanced tool is the magnetic lasso tool. So if I zoom in by hitting Command plus, you can see that there's a very distinctive line between my jacket and the color of the wall. For this, I can use the magnetic lasso tool. I simply click and drag slowly on the border, and the computer senses the line. And then let's see, I just wanted to kind of go back. And you have to make a complete shape. And then I delete. and then I click Command D to deselect. Always deselect. You can do it there, or you can hit Command or Control D. I'm not sure what it is on your computer. So those are some ways that I can get rid of things. Now, if you notice, when I use the this magnetic tool here, it's a little dicey. It doesn't really make the distinction I want it to make, because the colors of my jacket and the wall are so similar that it doesn't really recognize it. The magnetic lasso tool is for colors that are very distinctively different. Now let's imagine that I accidentally did select that and I did delete it. And I think, uh-oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to get back to what is missing from my picture? Well, that's where the paints come in. Remember, white is the presence of the layer and black is the absence of the layer. So if I have white selected, which means that's the top color, I can go into the paintbrush. And the paintbrush is quite big now. I'm going to make it smaller. And I want it to be really hard, which means a hard edge around it rather than soft. Now I can repaint. I can create the presence of the layer rather than the absence of the layer, which was the black area. Okay? So what I would do for a picture like this, there's different areas. First, I would get rid of the big chunks that are nice and easy. And for that, I would use the polygon lasso tool because it is the sort of safest tool to use. It's not a lot of user error because I just click, drag up here, click, click, and I'd go around pretty close to my face, not actually where I wanted it right up against it, but close enough that I'm not gonna have to go in there. Now I'm selecting the wall, not myself, so I don't want to go back and make that the selection. I want to go this way and make the wall my selection. So I'm just clicking and dragging all the way back to this side. And now if I zoom out, you can see what I've selected, and I hit delete. So right now I could save this, and this could be my my invisible, or my cutout of myself. But I want to get in here and clean this stuff up a little. So for me, don't want to get too close. I don't want all these wispies. I can get rid of them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the paintbrush to get a little bit more detailed. And I'm going to paint the absence of, I'm going to paint where I want it to disappear. I want a really hard brush for this. And I'm going to just take it up close to my face. And I can freehand it, but that's a little dangerous. So if you click and then you press Shift and hold Shift and click again, it will draw a straight line. So I am holding Shift this entire time, and I'm getting in fairly close. Now I'm going to need to use a smaller brush at some point, but for right now, I'm drawing, these are tiny little straight lines with the tip of my brush, but it's okay. So I'm getting in very close here. And then I can just kind of like freewheel that, okay? And then I can just kind of come in here with my paintbrush and I'm painting the absence of the layer. So it's a little bit like scissors, but essentially I'm painting the absence. And what's the difference? Well, if I make a mistake, I can change the colors and I can paint the presence of the layer. See? Very easy. If you make a mistake, you just paint it with white. Now I'll undo that. Now to get in this little area, I would just make my paintbrush smaller. See, it's small now. Whoops, I'm still painting the presence. I want to paint the absence. So get in there. I'm holding Shift to get these sort of straight lines that I'm edging around my jacket. That's going to be good enough in this picture. Here I just wanted to bring you in because I wanted to show you, it gets kind of difficult as you get closer and closer to these fine details but you don't have to pull out every sort of eyelash. It depends on how big your document is going to be, if it's going to be print or if it's going to be like a little thing on the back of a book or something. It's up to you. I mean, this is very, very fine stuff. I used to do this. This was like the first thing I did at EP. Rick would make me cut out these lawyers' heads so we could put them in ads, which is kind of funny. And I can get really small in here if I wanted to, but it's just deciding what it is that you want, and that's kind of like a good approximation of eyelashes. And I'm not going to put this on a totally white background, so it'll be fine. Now let's say you don't like this kind of hard area around the eyelashes. It's kind of weird. This is where you can use the Photoshop tool or the paintbrush with less hardness. It means it's softer around the edges. So what does that look like? You can see if I make the brush a little bit smaller and I bring the hardness down so it's got this soft edge, I'm kind of like making that a little bit, it's less of a hard edge if you see, and it's a little bit more natural when it comes to eyelashes and things like that. That might even be good on this hair. It's kind of like a hard edge. So let's bring a little bit back. Bring a little bit back. And now I can go in with the sort of soft, like fade of the hair rather than a hard line. So that is controlled by what brush you're using right now. We're using a 35 in size and 8% hardness. So that's really up to you. So when you're done with carving out everything that you want to carve out, basically everything that's in this checkered layer is going to be the invisible part. You can make this working layer, you can make it just a normal layer again. And you do that like this. Layer style, layer mask, and you just apply it. Now it's just a normal layer. You can always go in if you want to mess with it again and just do layer mask, reveal all, and it gives you that ability to do the black is the negative and the white is the positive. So the last thing I want to show you how to do is I took away those wisps under my chin because they were kind of a nightmare, and I just wanted to clean up the picture. But then I still have this hair over here. So what I want to show you how to do is use the rubber stamp tool. The rubber stamp tool, it allows you to copy a portion of the picture and draw it somewhere else. So let's just make a really obvious example with my finger. I can hit Option, and it makes the symbol like this, and I click on my knuckle, and now I let it go. And now I can draw below it. Essentially, you can see the cross up there. It is creating a rubber stamp of wherever I had initially suggested it. So, it's weird. It almost looks like two fingers. Okay, so that's just an obvious example of it. But I'm going to use that to actually correct blemishes and to correct this piece of hair. So I'm going to select pink from very close to this. I don't want to select pink from down in the shoulder because that's very light. It's different. You want to sort of correct for pink that's very close. So I'm going to hit Option, get that little symbol, and click. Let go of both. Then I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to just kind of trace down. And this is where you can get a little bit like you're painting. You kind of like sample. I'm going to Option sample that area there. I can sample this area. And you're kind of just like using the pattern and the color of nearby areas, to kind of disguise what is in that area. So there you can see it's pretty much gone. I use this a lot for skin retouching. Let's see. So I've got this kind of problem with my skin here. I don't want to select skin from my nose. It's too dark. This is too light. I'm going to choose skin that's very close. And it's going to copy not only, then I paint here, and it's going to copy not only the color, but the texture, right? I could even replicate something. Like if I wanted that sort of mole to be somewhere else, I could copy it and I could paint it somewhere else. It's really weird, but it allows you basically to copy anything you want. Okay, so that is how I clean up the hair or some sort of thing like that. All right, so now you need to save it. We are going to go to File, Export, Quick Export as a PNG. A PNG is the only type of file that allows you to have this transparent background. So Quick Export as a PNG. I will call it Jen No Background PNG, and I'll just save it to my desktop. Now, that is a file that has an invisible background. Now, PNGs are pretty large in size, and this is already a really large photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen that PNG. Let's see how big it is. Yeah, it's 10.3 megs. It's way too big for a website, way too big for print. So I'm going to open it up, and you can see that it's layer 0. It's just one layer, but the background is invisible. Now I just want to make the image, whoops, not the canvas size. I want to make the image size smaller. 5, that's way too big. On a website, you don't need anything that's bigger than like 1500, and that's for a full width of a website. So let's say I wanted this to be on my website. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? First, I don't need all this extra space around it. I'm actually going to crop this entire document, right? So I draw the square selection tool, I go to Image, Crop, and now it's going to be smaller already. Let's see how small it is. Image size, 27, still way too big. I don't think it needs to be bigger than 1,000 pixels if I want to have this on the website. 72 is the resolution for a website. 300 is the resolution for print. If it's 72 resolution and you print it, it's going to be fuzzy, pixelated. So 1,000 at 72 is perfect. I'm going to save it. Now if I go and look at that file size on my desktop, it's now 1.4 meg. I just chopped down to a lot less. So now if I go into Illustrator and I have, let's say, this background, kind of a weird one, I would go to File, Place, Choose, click. Ooh, it's quite big still. Shift and drag to maintain the integrity of the size. If I don't shift, it's going to do that, right? So I have to hold shift while I scale it. And now I've got, whoops, move, okay. Now I've got the perfect picture for my website. It looks so good. And you can also just import this picture of me directly to the website. Okay, I hope that wasn't too hard. Let me know if you have any questions.